What's up, everyone, and welcome into episode number 519, where it is my honor and privilege to introduce a special guest joining this episode, and that is Kelvin volleyball player Giovanni Serafini. How are you doing, Giovanni?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing good. Really appreciate you joining. I know you've been pretty busy on your side of things with volleyball. I know you guys just had scrimmages recently. How did those go? Is it kind of fun getting into a little bit more of like volleyball and then kind of getting into that point more really in the spring?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was amazing scrimmages. Everyone was able to play, so I'm happy for that. We have a really big team this year. We have 21 guys. We have another transfer coming in next semester, so it's going to be a big team. But other than that, it was really fun to get to see the level that we're playing at. Obviously, he's gotten a lot better since last year, but it was just really good to get some minutes, get some experience before the season actually starts. But it's looking really good. We played against Davenport, Aquinas, and GVSU, so it's really good to play against some of the experience and some of these teams that we've played against before. But just to get that experience and that playing time was really important for looking forward to the season. That's like very valuable to us for sure.
Yeah, get some obviously experience, but get some familiarity with everyone on the team, but also have some familiarity with opponents that you've played before. So you kind of probably understand a little bit of like their style of play, like what you're going to probably expect to go up against, which is obviously what kind of the fall season is truly about. Is about not only getting better, but also coming together as a team, but also getting ready for when the real season truly starts. And it seems like you guys kind of use the scrimmage for that opportunity and for that reason.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It was really important that we get that, get to play just so we know how our team is doing before we actually get to the season because we won't have that many chances once we actually start playing. And we want to start strong, and that's like really what matters. And then we also play Aquinas in our season during
Okay.
our season, so getting to see them before and sort of how they look, is really important as well. That was really good for us to see what we have in the future to play against.
Yeah, exactly. And you guys also have a new head coach this year. I know that this is kind of his first year. This is your second year at Kelvin. How's just kind of been that transition to obviously a new head coach? You did mention you have 21 players, a 22nd coming in. Has it been a little bit of a different kind of transition, or has it been a pretty smooth kind of transition to like obviously your second year in the program, but also trying to learn and play for a new coach?
Yeah, obviously, college that ends up happening sometimes, and there's really nothing we can do about it except just like moving on and realizing that that coach before won't be there, and already being 1 year in, having played an entire season, it really just shows you that people end up leaving, and we have a lot of teammates that ended up leaving as well. We had about 10 that left from last year, so it was
Okay.
kind of you just have to get used to that. It was a really big amount of our team left. Some due to injuries, some transferred, some just quit volleyball in general. So it's really hard to understand that, but it's like part of the sport itself. Like college, you know that that's gonna happen. People change, people go places, and there's nothing you can really do. But it's been a good transition. I like the head coach, and then we have two new assistant coaches as well. And just to see what experience they bring. They bring a lot of experience, a lot of talent. One of our assistant coaches played professionally, played
That's
Division One
awesome.
volleyball, so she's a really good help for us for sure. Knows a lot when it comes to blocking, just everything in general. Stuff that helps me, but also the other athletes, and that's just experience that they bring. So I'm really excited for what they're gonna what they're bringing to the table, but also what they're gonna, you know, give us during the season. So I'm looking forward to that. But it's been quite a smooth transition, I would say.
Good.
The head coach is really good at just identifying what we need to work on, and I feel like we're doing that is, half the battle. And he's showing up and he's doing his job well. And I feel like that's really what matters. And he's really trying to connect with us. We've been doing more things as a team than we did last year. So I feel like
Okay,
in
good.
general, just the road to success is starting, and hopefully that'll be part of the reason why we'll be a better team next year for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like obviously that is really important as well. But you mentioned about how they're kind of like helping you guys out, like telling you what to look for, like kind of giving you their kind of like image or kind of like game plan, or just saying, hey, look for this, look for that. And I feel like for you specifically, being this your second year, probably your first year was a lot of just trying to figure out like, hey, what does college volleyball look like? What does my coach want me to do? How do I play this way? And now year number two, having a year under your belt, it's probably a little bit easier kind of seeing, hey, this is why they're seeing this, or hey, they see this, I saw this as well. So feel like kind of obviously being with a new coach, kind of going through that transition in year number two, that probably is a little bit of an easier kind of transition, maybe easier to understand because you've already gone through year one, where that's probably a lot of just like I mentioned, learning about the sport, learning how different college volleyball is compared to any volleyball you played prior.
That's a really good insight. I feel like having that experience for me, my first year was a really big transition for my life. Moving from another country and getting here and having like not basically knowing it, like knowing I didn't know anyone, and having the team was the biggest support group I could have had. Like I wouldn't have done it any different. I feel like they just took me in and they were like, "Oh, like this guy, he knows what he wants. He's given 100% of himself." So I feel like they just like took me in because they knew that I was invested and I was
Oh yeah,
all in the program, and I feel like that's really what matters, and just being able to just get on the court and obviously there's those problems that come, and having that experience also like it sort of makes you stronger. That I know that for sure this year going into the season, after the season, coach could even leave, or the assistant coaches could leave, and players could leave, players can transfer, players can just quit, and that's something you just need to real understand and realize that it's not, there's nothing you can do about it, but just wish the best for
exactly.
them and be there for them and support them, because it's not all about sports, right? People have feelings, people get burnt out, and that's all part of the process. But being able to realize that and understand that there's nothing you can really do is really hard, but it's part of playing sports for sure. Yeah, it's the mental part really
Yeah.
gets you for sure.
Exactly, like the mental part of just like you mentioned sports, but college athletics, there's just so much pressure on you to perform. Like you're going up against like the best of the best. And especially for you, you mentioned that you're not from the US, and that adds a whole nother kind of pressure, a whole nother stress as well. Because besides last year, you grew up and you're from Brazil. Like, had you ever, like, visited the US? Did you ever, like, imagine going to the US for volleyball? How did you start playing volleyball in Brazil? Obviously, I know it's a pretty big sport in Brazil. It's a sport that Brazil is very, very good at. You see them perform extremely well in the Olympics every single year, volleyball, when it comes to inside, when it comes to beach volleyball as well. Like, just kind of talk about, like, not only, like, joining volleyball, but, like, growing up and being from Brazil, and kind of how that truly started your career in volleyball.
I mean, growing up, my mother is a coach. She coaches
Okay.
varsity women's volleyball at at a high school level. And growing up, just the culture in Brazil is like, if you're not playing soccer, you're either playing volleyball or you're playing basketball. Basketball is also a big sport in Brazil, is growing a lot, but it's like you have to play a sport. And that's just something that we have in our culture. It's like you have to do something. You can't just be,
Exactly.
messing around. You have to play a sport. And that's like part of the culture that we have there, is being active and just doing stuff. And I started playing around the age of 14, 15. So I started really late when it
Okay.
comes to, actually starting sport. But my mother really wanted me to, and my middle school didn't have it. So started playing at the end of seventh grade, start of eighth grade. And then I started playing at this community center with this really good coach that really told me that I would have a future if I invested in volleyball. And then after that, I let go of any other sports that I played, only focused on volleyball. And then after a couple months playing there, then I decided to go to a test, try to play club, got in the club, and I started playing under 17. So I was already like 16 at that point is when I
Yeah.
started playing at a higher level. Also
Okay.
played high school as well, but then COVID happened, so there was that big issue. So the club was still open, so we still practiced. We'd use masks, but my high school was closed. So it was only club for a while. And in Brazil, just the situation I lived in, had to get public transportation all the time because my parents work and there's like no one to take me. You're 16, you don't have a car, you don't have anything like that, right? And it's just something you have to do. So all the years that I played volleyball, I'd get the bus or get the subway or train or anything. So any means of transportation possible to take me there. So I played 1 year at that club, started getting really better, found out that there were options to continue. I've
Okay.
just didn't know that, right? Because that's stuff that
Yeah.
you just don't really understand when you're growing up. And then that
Exactly.
one coach helped me, so I got into under 19, started playing under 19, and then I played an entire season there. I was a state champion for the under 17 with my team, so in São Paulo, which is where I'm from. A really big state. There's 22 teams, 22
Oh, wow.
club teams in the state, and then so it was really competitive, really high pressure, fans all the time, like think of just packed gyms where people are making noise, people are screaming, swearing, and it's just this really emotional. The culture in Brazil is just we're all emotional, and people obviously end up being going crazy.
Yeah.
Parents
Like
would yell at
chirping a
refs,
little
and
bit
there's
like
always
at
that
you guys.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So that's something that I'm used to, and we don't have that here, obviously, which I don't have really a strong opinion against or for that. I feel like when it comes to fans, I like that pressure of just, people being loud and just having that like background noise is just something I got used to, just playing a lot of volleyball and the season there is a lot different. So we would start playing in February and we would finish the season in December.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
the whole year you're playing club and you're playing state championships and you're playing, the championship takes forever because you're playing about 40 games. You play every team twice. So you go to play at their club and then they play they play a home game there. So you're playing 40 games just for state, and then if you make state, you win, then you play national. So it's this really big competitive just culture that we have there, and just the pressure is insane. And then coming here, I was like expecting it to be loud, expecting gyms to be packed. We had a little bit of that at some games, but
Okay.
not just didn't really get that feeling of that obviously you have that pressure, but you don't have the fans yelling and making noise and screaming when you're serving, like that stuff we have a lot there. But I really love the culture there in Brazil where people are just really emotional and love sports, and you're always
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
have the packed gym. You're always gonna have people yelling, almost starting fights just because they care about it. They care about the
Exactly.
sport, and parents are always there. My mom was always at my games too, so there's that part that you love about the sport, that people are always there to support you and back you up. But obviously it's a high intense, especially playing club. It was
Oh,
very
yeah.
intense. My coaches were really rude. Like they would swear at you if you're not doing a good job. And there's like it wasn't like personal, nothing personal. And that's something you would have to you it took me a while to understand. There's nothing personal. He just wants you to win. He wants you to play your highest level. And
Exactly.
that's just something you get used to because there's nothing you can really do about it. And here it's completely different, right? The coaches I've had, the two head coaches I've had, they're really, some are first one wasn't that he was still a little bit more like the coach from Brazil. He'd get angry, but I still like that. I like that from
Oh, yeah.
him because I looked up to him and I liked that he was emotional, that he cared, but at the same time was angry and wanted us to play at a high level. But then the new coach is
Exactly.
more supportive, more motivational. So, just get a little bit of each side of the that little fine line between
Oh, yeah.
being angry all the time and then also, there's that fine line, but yeah, the culture there is really good, and just growing up in Brazil what was, obviously really, really special to me, and that's something I keep part of my identity when I'm playing, and I'm always talking Portuguese by myself when we're playing, and some of my teammates even know a couple words, know a
That's
couple
awesome.
sayings, and we listen to music, that I have back from home, so sort of get to, share a little bit of my culture to them, but it's really special. It's a beautiful country, amazing people, and that's something that, obviously it's a different to in any other country, but coming here, there's always those things that you have to get used to, but it's been amazing. The team has taken me in, and I wouldn't change anything for sure
I
since
was
I
just
got
gonna
here.
say, like, you can see and hear you talk and just care so much about like the culture of like competitiveness and where you come from and playing in front of packed crowds. And for a lot of people, like they might get that and they might see a lot of pressure and they might fold. But for you, it's almost like, hey, like that's home for me. Like that's what I kind of like grew up on. Like that's just kind of like what I expect to do. And I feel like that's just the coolest thing about different places, different sports is that the way people approach their sport, the way that people have passion for specific sports, and you obviously have a lot of passion for volleyball. I know the country as a whole has a ton of passion for volleyball. You mentioned soccer, basketball, just a very emotion kind of based country, a very emotion based culture. And that's one thing that I love most about sports is I want people that want to enjoy and I want people that will get a little rowdy. Like that's like what's fun about it. And it's stuff like you mentioned the packed gyms. Like I'm sure you probably specifically remember when you won the state championship. I'm sure that's probably a moment that's stuck in the head for the rest of your moment, not only winning it, but like probably how everyone was reacting around you. Like those are just memories that you're gonna have for the rest of your life, and you're obviously have those memories, but you're also bringing a little bit of that culture, a little bit of that emotion to the U.S. to Kelvin, where like you mentioned, like it was different, right? And that doesn't mean one way is better than the other, it's just different approaches, it's just different, like, cultures, it's just different emotions, but about like, I think that's one of the coolest things that you mentioned out of everything you said a lot of really cool things, but the idea of, like, you sharing your culture and the idea of, like, your teammates wanting to be a part of it, like, learning phrases, wanting to listen to the music, like, I'm sure for you, that's probably one of the coolest moments, is not only being a part of Kelvin Volleyball, but having teammates that wanna kind of go into or learn a little bit about your culture. I feel like that in itself just shows what kind of team Kelvin is as a whole. Is like you mentioned, they accepted you right away. And I'm sure that's probably something that you've really enjoyed, still kind of having a little bit of that feeling from home, even though you're not necessarily quote unquote home. I'm sure Kelvin probably feels a little bit closer to home when you're playing volleyball.
I really loved the first thing you said, just how sports is so special, right? It just brings the best out of people, also can bring the worst out of people, but
A little
there's
bit.
obviously that fine line, right?
Yeah.
We want it to bring the best out of people, but just how it connects cultures and it connects identities and people, and just how like two people can hate each other, but if they like the same sport and they watch the same team, that can bring them together, and just how it just it's just amazing to it's hard to describe, right? It's this feeling of just the way that sports connects people from different countries. Like I speak a different language, but because we play the same sport, because we love sports in general, that just connects us, that makes us friends, that makes us human beings, right? We have that, and that's just so special. Just the fact that a guy from Brazil can come all the way here and be accepted with wide open arms from a team that's completely different than he is, from different places, from different states in the U.S. And just how fast it can become a family. Like I would do anything for these guys, and they know that, and we give 100%. Like I'm always giving 100%, and I know that they are. We are invested in becoming a better team, and that's what sports is about. Like it's about putting in your time, putting in your effort, but that's what makes it so special because it's
Oh yeah.
something that's rooted in emotions and just hard work, right? Because that's just the love that we have for the sport is we're watching it, we're playing it, and it's not just volleyball. And I love soccer. I love watching football. I love watching baseball. I'll watch any sport. Just the connections that you have with other people is that's what matters, right? That's why we love the sport so much. It's incredible. It's
Yeah,
just
that
awesome.
that connection you have with people, that connection you can grow with people, even like you mentioned from different areas. Like for volleyball, like I don't want to say it's just bump, set, spike. Like you might have different kind of like phrasing, you might have different ways of kind of like going around their systems, but like volleyball is volleyball. You're all going to be speaking quote unquote the same language or the same ideas to get there, even if you're from different places. But yeah, I did want to kind of bring up a little bit more. I know you've mentioned obviously like the state championship. Is that like the coolest moment or coolest experience you've had playing in Brazil? If not, like would it I know you won the state championship, which I believe you said if you win it you go to nationals, which I'm sure was if you did go was absolutely incredible. Like would you say those are some like the coolest experiences or do you have like one specific moment that you're like, okay, like this is quite different. Again, like I was mentioning prior, like one moment that kind of like sticks in your head where you're like, that's going to be a moment I never forget.
That's the one thing I love about sports and how there's those moments, but just in general and how it brings that emotions. Like just thinking about the times that I've spent, the games that I've played back home. Just I know you just feel happy. You miss that. You wish you could play again with those teammates. But for sure, I have a lot of memories. But when it comes to club, it was winning the state championship because that was something that the club we were really invested in that, and we were putting in so much effort, and being able to get there and win that game and beat a team that we knew was really good, but we knew we were better than. That was probably one of the biggest just moments of just like the last point and just running in and like hugging my teammates and just being like, we did it, like we deserve this, and we were able to. But when it comes to high school, I also played high school volleyball for 4 years. Just freshman year didn't really count because we didn't really play, but from 10th to senior year we did play. And the best moment when it comes to high school, just the moment I won't forget, is we went to Chile once to play a tournament that we were
That's
invited to,
awesome.
and being able to go to another country in South America, and we were hosted by this family. So each like every 2 or 3 athletes would be hosted by a family, and it was this big tournament for with other schools around the world,
Wow.
and it was basically the best team from each country would go to this tournament, and we had won state and the no one state and the national championship in Brazil. So we were the best high school in all of Brazil, and then we went to play against these other teams from Argentina and
Oh yeah.
just incredible athletes, insane skill, amazing people, and just being able to be in another country and you're playing at this high level, but just experiencing the food and this culture and this language. Obviously I speak Portuguese and they speak Spanish there, but it's like obviously a completely different language. And people sometimes ask me, "Oh, you speak Portuguese, can you understand Spanish?" And just being able to like listen to their language and see how like I can understand
Exactly.
some things, but they speak so fast I can't really like understand what they're saying all
Yeah.
the time. But it was just really amazing, and we got third place in that tournament. So obviously, Argentina, they got first place, but just being able to be there and experience that's like probably the biggest thing for me. And obviously winning titles for my high school, you just feel it feels like you're part of the history now, like after you
Exactly.
win it. And that's a big thing in Brazil as well. Like we really care about legacy and what you leave behind because that really matters, right? It doesn't really matter if you're a good athlete, it really matters the person you were and what you left behind for other teammates coming in. And that's something that I'm really big about, especially here. Like I want to leave a legacy that, guys that play my position or any other teammate that comes in, I want them to know that, you have to be invested. You have to put in 100% of your effort at
Oh
every
yeah.
practice, at every game. And that's something that I show. It's not something you say, right? You can't be like, "Oh, I'm giving 100%." No, you have to show that. And that's something
Exactly.
that our team is really big about. Even if we don't have the best skill in the conference, we're giving 100%. And sometimes giving 100% beats skill, it beats talent, it beats everything else, and that's something you show to your teammates, and that's something that we want to be able to show as a program, right? That's just starting. Like it's going to be our third season now, third
Exactly.
season as a varsity team, as a team that plays at a high level. And obviously, it's hard because we don't get the same support that bigger teams that have, already won conference, that have already been to nationals. So it's really hard to be able to start this program, but it's a blessing. Like being able to be, the one of the first players that's representing the team in the nation or representing
Exactly.
the team, in the conference. So those are a couple things that I like to bring in that I feel like I do well in the team, but that's just really important, right? You want to be able to show people what you want to do and show people what your morals are, what you believe in, because saying
Exactly.
it doesn't really mean anything if you don't do it, right? That's something
Yeah.
something that I'm really big about.
Yeah, and that's one thing about like you mentioned about like leaving a legacy, and that's one thing that like you can be prideful about like what you did in high school. But like going to Kelvin, if you look at all the sports for a lot of their sports, there's a history right there of winning conference championships, of going to nationals, and there's like a pride in playing for your school and doing so well. And I feel like you can not only like take kind of like that pride, that legacy, wanting to leave it, especially when you're at Brazil. But you can almost say the same thing at Kelvin that you want to do is you want to leave a legacy. You want to kind of be a part of that team that continue to grow year in and year out. And even though this is your third year as a program, you want to continue to get better and you want to be one of those teams that leaves that legacy that is competing in conference because you look at like basketball is always competing. If you look at if you look at like lacrosse is usually pretty decent. Baseball is usually pretty decent. Multiple other sports are usually right up there. And there's that pride of wanting to kind of be that next sport. And it seems like it's something that you guys are really trying to get there, that you can be that next Kelvin team to kind of bring in a little bit of history, bring in a little legacy for the next team after this year.
It's really, really important for us because obviously program that's starting doesn't have a lot of history of, winning. And that obviously that's something really big. Like when you look at the women's program, they just won the conference, upset a
Exactly.
team that's ranked seventh in the nation. And just you just see that, how they're so invested in it. And we want to be that, we want to be that team that wins as well. But obviously it's harder to do that when you're just starting out. And that's something that we have to understand, that we have to build a team first and build some history first before we go and, make more of that history, We have to
Exactly.
to start somewhere, and I feel like we're doing that. We're setting the building blocks for so that the future teams, future players that come in. And for me, the goal is to obviously compete and, it's going to be hard winning the conference third year, but there's teams that have done that. When you look at Cal Lutheran, that the first year that they played that they started a men's volleyball team, they won their conference and they were national champions. So just there's obviously examples in sport in the sport of volleyball where teams that are just starting and they win. So that
Exactly.
isn't like an excuse that we can have because we know that teams can, start from zero and do really well. And that's what we're trying to do. And we're trying to obviously the biggest goal is to make it a conference, make the playoffs, win, and then, go to nationals. Like who doesn't want to? But we have
Yeah,
to start somewhere, and that's starting in the conference and winning a game at a time, and
exactly.
we have to work for that, right? And obviously, when you look at the women's program, you're like, wow, I wish we already had some history before we got here, so that people looked up to us. But we can start that now, and that's all. That's all like part of sports, right?
Exactly, and I completely forgot that the women's volleyball team just won the conference tournament, which is a great accomplishment. I'm sure that you probably know quite a few of the players. I'm sure that you guys were kind of like packing out that arena, especially for Hope Kelvin. I know it is a really, really big rivalry, especially for women's volleyball, for basketball as well. I know that Hope, I believe, has a club team, doesn't have a varsity team, so you guys don't necessarily get that experience. Maybe in the future that would be really, really cool. I do want to get into obviously a little bit more of Kelvin, but I kind of want to get into a little bit more of like coming to the US before kind of getting into the team, because one thing you did mention is that after winning states, you went and got to play over at Chile. Like that's something that you got to experience. Like you got to go to a different country. You got to face other countries. You guys got third there. Like it was a really cool experience. You got to try food, try to get their culture, learn, like have conversations with people over there that speak Spanish. You speak Portuguese. So obviously, like you mentioned, a little different language barrier. But was that really kind of the moment where you're like, maybe there's a good idea of coming to the US to play volleyball, like wanting to kind of have that experience again? Or was that really kind of on your mind prior to that? And then how do you end up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, out of all places?
So that's a great question. Obviously, I feel like yeah, going to Chile was when it like I started to get an idea of like, wow, playing abroad is awesome. It's amazing. You get these opportunities and you get to like just see the world. And I didn't spend a lot of time there. It was just like a week, and like it was obviously a fast tournament because it ends up being expensive for a school to host that many athletes and just all of that. But
Exactly.
but I already sort of had an idea because my mom always wanted me to play in the US and play college volleyball
Okay.
because she had that dream and unfortunately she wasn't able to have that, so she wanted that for me. And I started looking at the recruiting process when I was like a junior, end of junior year in high school. But we had already won. I had already played. So junior year is when we won state. We also won state senior year. But that year, senior year, we played. So the big tournament that we had that was in Chile was hosted in Brazil. It was hosted in
Okay.
another state. So I didn't really get to see another country again. I wish I
Oh
could
yeah,
have
that
gone
would have
to like
been cool.
Argentina or
Yeah.
Uruguay. Like I wanted to see these countries because they're amazing, just just being able to travel. So unfortunately wasn't able to do that my senior year. But just, the legacy that I left there after I get to my senior year, then I was like, okay, I'm really invested in this. And my parents were all in and they were like, no, let's make this happen. Let's see if you can get a good amount of scholarship, get your grades well. And I felt like I had just had a perfect, pathway to get there. So but I did have a coach. One of my coaches, his son played at Calvin, played basketball at
Okay.
Calvin. So he sort of already knew about Calvin as well. So there's already that like connection. But he showed me this website that they have for the recruiting process. And I started doing it at my junior year. And it was just like just this great idea. My parents were like, if this works out, like you can go to another country and live there and play volleyball at a high level, represent your country, represent your family, represent your high school here in the US, and you just get to have that life where you get to see the world for a longer period of time. And that's just when it started. And I, started sending messages to a bunch of coaches. And then the head coach from last year at Calvin, reached out to me and I just felt a connection from the start. And I was like, well, I really want to go there. And it was like my first, like when they have like a top choice for
Oh
when
yeah.
you want to play. And I was like, for me, it was Calvin. It was like, if financially it works out, that was like, obviously the biggest problem, coming from a country where our money isn't obviously the currency in Brazil is like nothing compared to the US and just all of that. And I also grew up in an area where it wasn't really nice. Like just my family, when it comes to like financially, when it comes financially, we suffer a lot with that. And coming to another country they were like, okay, we have a budget, and fortunately, the budget, was enough, even less than we were imagining. So it ended up working out. So after all that worked out, then I was like, I'm committing, and just having that idea that it was actually possible. I feel like it was,
Yeah.
really a gift from God that He was just showing me the whole time. It's like the moment I talked to the coach on the phone and I looked at the university, saw the arena, saw the campus, and got to understand a little bit about it. I knew that it was a program that was just starting, but at the moment, I talked to him, I was like, wow, I feel like this is it, and it ended up working out. Like a year later, it works out and I'm here and I'm playing. So yeah, just really started in Chile, started with my parents really wanting and supporting me through the whole process. But yeah, it's a lot of that is because of them. They supported me a lot and they wanted the best for me, and that's what really helped me. If I to be honest, if I didn't have their support the whole time, and I didn't have the opportunities that they were able to provide, then wouldn't be here. To be honest, yeah.
That's awesome. It almost seemed like it was meant to be. Like, right, like you mentioned your coach, like it was a basketball player that came here and then the coach reached out to you and he's like, "Hey, we really want you to be here." And it's almost like it was kind of like destiny for you to end up at Kelvin, a not only a great school, like obviously like a building program, but also you mentioned like faith a little bit, and it's obviously like a Christian college. Like it kind of seemed like it was like everything that was like meant to be, and it gave you a chance to do what you wanted to do.
Sure, for sure, it worked out perfectly.
Yeah. And you mentioned the fact that like your parents' support is a big reason why you are currently and you meant where you are currently and like a big reason like if it wasn't there like it wasn't going to be something that was possible and you mentioned that your mom was a coach, she wanted to play in the US and it wasn't possible, she didn't really either get the opportunity to end up happening, so because of that, what does it mean to you to have this opportunity? I know that you really are appreciative of your parents. You can definitely just tell not only by like when you're talking about them, like just giving this opportunity, you're extremely grateful for it. But it has to be such a cool moment, kind of being you right now, kind of getting to not only experience this, but having like your parents kind of live through it, something that your mom wanted to do, but you get the opportunity to do that. That has to be a surreal moment, not only for you, but for your parents as well.
Yeah, that's a wonderful way of thinking about it. Yeah, uh, yeah, I feel like I carry my obviously my mom's dreams that she had, but I carry, what they mean to me, and I carry them when I'm playing volleyball, and I feel like I represent them well. But obviously, I'm really thankful for the opportunity because I'm the only one that's here. I have an uncle that lives in the U.S. from part of my dad's side, but I don't have anyone else. Like they didn't come with me. I came here by myself just because it's what we were able to do. But the fact that they are able to give me this opportunity is the biggest thing that motivates me, because when I get to practice, when I get to a game, when I get to a lift, I think like they're working hard for this. If I don't do it, then no one will. So just having that idea, that's like the biggest thing that motivates me, because I know that when I'm lifting, when I'm practicing, when I'm working, when I'm studying, it's like they're back home, they're working, they're still living their life, but they're happy that I'm here. And that's the biggest thing that motivates me, because they're giving me this opportunity, and it wouldn't make sense for me to not appreciate it and not use all that I'm able to have. And if I'm not taking every opportunity and I'm not giving 100%, then it means that someone else is going to do that, but they're going to look back and be like, "We gave you this opportunity. Why didn't you take it?" And I feel like I'm doing that right now, and I'm just, show them I carry them when on my jersey, I carry them everywhere I go, and just having them that support is just it means the world to me, because I'm able to have that opportunity. I'm able to live this life that I wanted for myself, and I'm just really happy and just, appreciative of, just everything that they've done for me. And that's the biggest thing that motivates me, because I know that they're back home and they're watching all my games online, and they obviously wish they were here. But if I'm able to represent my country and represent my culture and my family, my people, then that's all that really matters, because that's what motivates me, just being able to show a little bit of myself, but also where I'm from and my background. And through that, I show that through volleyball. And that's really what means the most to me, is like I'm here. If I'm not showing people who I am, and not showing why I'm here, then what am I doing, right? If I'm not giving 100%, then what am I doing? So that really is a big
Exactly.
thing that I carry on my back. Obviously, it sometimes can be a burden, but I don't see it as one. I see it as a way to motivate me. I see it as a weight on my chest that I can utilize to become stronger and better and just a better person in general. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you've done a great job in that. And like, obviously, I know we've been talking for almost 42 minutes at this point, but just from talking with you, you can just tell, like, how much it truly means to you and just tell, like, kind of the person that you are, like, you truly care about it. I know that, like, your parents are probably very proud of you. Like, obviously, it's something like you mentioned that's extremely difficult at times. Probably there's times where, like, when you first came to Kelvin, I'm sure the different, like, culture, I'm sure, like, you had some awakenings at a few points, like, just moving away from home is difficult to do in college in general, and flying from Brazil to the US is just a whole nother part of that. But also being like the athlete that you are and kind of what you've learned, what you're kind of going through right now obviously has helped you become better, and obviously has helped you want to achieve some really big goals. Like, I know that you guys want to have a great season. I know you guys want to compete for a conference. I know that you want to compete very well. I know you want to show like your emotion. And I think you've done that extremely well. And it's something that you seem to be truly prideful of, and it's something that you want to continue to display and want to continue to do this year, next year, the year after that, or however long you play at Kelvin. So, two last kind of questions before we wrap up real quick about Kelvin. Obviously, like we've talked a little bit about volleyball. We've talked a little bit about kind of like the team, all that kind of stuff. Just how different is it like when it comes to like training, when it comes to like culture, when it comes to school? Like, how different is the US? How different is Kelvin? How different is the college lifestyle compared to Brazil? Like, anything you experience Brazil, obviously it's a little different because it's a different level, different language, different culture as a general, but, like, what was kind of that transition from the culture in Brazil, the lifestyle in Brazil to when you came to the US, when you came to Kelvin? Are you still kinda going through that a little bit, or now have you kinda, like, settled in now that you're year 2 at Kelvin?
Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful question. And I feel like there's a lot of ways to answer that. But yeah, obviously when I got here, sort of was in shock. And with a lot of things, right? Obviously, you're like you get to this new country, and you're like, wow, I'm living here. Hopefully for the next 4 years of my life, and that's something hard to understand because you're like, well, I won't see my family, but it's something that I already was that I gave into, something that I already knew was gonna happen. But
Exactly.
but obviously, I feel like I've sort of you know, found a stable ground. Like I have friends, and I have people that are here to support me. And I feel like the hardest thing, or just the only thing I really suffered from was missing, being homesick. Because part of the culture in Brazil is we really invest in family, and we really find it important. So every weekend, I'm with my family, and every month we have a barbecue with all of my family members, or we have something going on. And there isn't one month where I don't see them, especially when I was
Exactly.
back there for the summer. I was there with them, and we're partying, and we're having barbecues. We're having, like, oh, my cousin's birthday party, and we're always there together. So not being able to have that obviously is hard to understand. But then, I have friends, and I have the team. So it's like sort of my second family here. And thank God I play sports, because I wouldn't be able to, have that team, that bond that I have with these guys, men that I would literally do anything for. These are guys that are like literally my brothers, and I would say that, and I would do anything for them. If they need help, I'm there. If they need me to, you know, do something for them, I'm there. If they need a
Exactly.
backup to anything, if they need a friend that's gonna help them study, or if they need a friend that's, needs to go, if they need to do something or go somewhere, like I'll be that guy, because I know that they deserve that, and they deserve someone to be there for them. And I know that any of them would be able to help me whenever I need a
Yeah.
ride or whenever I need anything. So I love that that's possible. I love that our team does that. And obviously getting used to the culture was a little hard. Just the times that people eat food, or just the way that people like compliment each other. Sometimes when in Brazil we hug people. We're huggers. We completely are huggers. You hug everyone. If I get to a I get to a get together with my family and my grandmother's there or something, I hug that person. When you meet
Oh,
someone
yeah.
new, you hug them.
Yeah.
It's just this culture that we do that. And I got here and I would go in to hug someone and I'd be like, oh, wait, I forgot. It's just a handshake. So it's
Yeah.
those like little things that you have to get used to. And unfortunately, I wish I didn't have to, because I'm a hugger. We
Yeah.
Brazilians are huggers, and it's just something we do. But it's those little things that obviously take a while to get used to. And I also found it weird because in Brazil we dinner really late, so we'll have a
Okay.
lunch
Yeah.
at like 1 p.m., sometimes even 2 or 3, or we'll eat really early. It just really depends on the day. But then dinner we'll have at like 7 p.m., 8 p.m., maybe even 9 p.m. And here it's like people are already eating at like 5:30, five
Yeah.
o'clock. And that was something that took me a while to get used to. But you can always eat whenever you want. But those are just little things that take you a while to get used to. But when it comes to studying as well, I studied at a private school because my mom's a librarian,
Okay.
and we basically got like full rides to study there.
Oh,
And it's
that's
a
awesome.
private international school, so we spoke English most of the times. So I sort of already had that culture, so I was already around other people from other countries. But I spoke English a lot, and I also did the IB, which is the
Okay.
International Baccalaureate from Europe. So really hard,
Yeah.
like really
Yeah.
difficult
Strict.
studying.
Yeah.
So sort of already had an idea of what I was going into when I came to the US. And that really helped me. That really helped me keep up the grades, but also just being able to understand how like all of school works, right? So that really, gave me an idea. And so for me, really studying isn't really that hard. And I've been speaking English since I was little, because my both of my parents are fluent. So that's also something that
Okay.
isn't really hard for me. I know that I have friends from Brazil that study here that have a little difficulty with that. But for me, it's really been just an easy. And just the only hardest thing for me was getting used to being away from family because of the culture and everything. But other than that, like I've just been embraced by the community, and I love that. Like there's nothing I wouldn't want anything else like that. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
just amazing.
Yeah, which I love to hear. And obviously, like, you could maybe even say that, like, your education prior to Kelvin could maybe even been a little bit more difficult than it is at Kelvin, just because of kind of like that style of like grading, just kind of like how difficult that is. But I do want to put you on the hot spot real quick because you mentioned like barbecuing with family. And I'm going to put you on the hot spot. In your opinion, food wise, what's better, food in Brazil or food in the US overall?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't even have to think. It's in Brazil for sure, because
Okay.
I've been eating that food since I grew up. Obviously that's a little biased,
Yeah.
but
I
but
kind of
yeah.
assumed you would go Brazil, but I had to ask.
hmm No,
What's
no,
your
that's a
favorite
great question.
dish?
I love the food here. It's really good, but Brazil wins. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah. What's your favorite dish in Brazil?
Favorite dish? I have a couple, but probably feijoada.
Okay.
That's like my favorite. It's this really traditional dish that like every family cooks. Obviously there's the barbecue, and that's like the simple like rice. You get some vinaigrette with that, and then like just some good steaks. We don't
Okay.
do like hot dogs or burgers. That's
Yeah.
something like separate. If like you have like a Brazilian barbecue is like, if you're invited to Brazilian barbecue, you need to bring like soda. You'll bring salad and stuff. Like we don't do just hamburgers or like I don't know. I really haven't been to like an actual cookout here in the US where they actually make like an actual barbecue. The ones I've been to were just hamburgers and sausages. So I might
Okay.
not have the full experience of that, but in Brazil, it's that. But feijoada is this really traditional dish where you cook beans and you just throw like all the parts of a pork. So you throw in the ribs,
Okay.
sausage, ears,
Oh, that sounds good.
legs, just everything in there. And it's sort of like a big like soup, but like a thick with the beans. And then you put that on top of rice, and then you have some vinaigrette and you have some farofa, which is cassava, which is like mandioc. It's this
Okay.
like big root that we it's sort of like potato. It's like one of it's in the family. And then you have like it's like flour, but then they they like cook it with some onions and stuff, so it's like really dry, but then you're supposed
Okay.
to put that on the beans.
Okay.
So it's really good. It's really good. Yeah.
I was just gonna say for the U.S. cookout, you're gonna probably get burgers, brats, stuff like that. You might get steak every once in a while, but yeah, that's gonna kind of be like the U.S. cookout. But I've sadly never been invited to a Brazilian cookout before, but that sounds so much better than um burgers and brats sometimes. So maybe one time in history, maybe I'll get invited to one. It sounds like a fun time. Sounds like a good time. Hopefully I get the opportunity to do it, but if not, I'll stick with my burgers and brats and stuff like that too. Not too bad, so can't complain too much about that. But maybe sometime, maybe if I ever visit Brazil, which would be cool to do one day,
Yeah, if
maybe
you
I get
do,
to
you
get
let
into
me
one.
know because we always have barbecues going on over there.
Yeah.
Always.
No, that would be awesome. I've never visited Brazil. It would be really cool to visit. And it's a place that I feel like obviously if I go to, I feel like I have to go to like a volleyball or a soccer match or something like that. I feel like I would have to experience that kind of event, that kind of atmosphere if I do end up going that route. So, two last kind of questions. What are just some of your goals this year, and just how excited are you to be headed into your second year at Kelvin?
Excited. Obviously, I've said before that I'm like 100% invested in this team, but I'm just really excited of the new talent that we've got. We got a couple of transfers that are already on the team, and just a lot of really good freshman group. And I'm just really excited to see what we're gonna do, and see what we're the mess that we're gonna make in this conference. I hope that we just show everyone that we got a lot better from last year. But, as a team, I just wanna see us have more fun. I want us to grow as, like, as a team. I want us to, just just have fun when we're playing and just be united. That's something that's really important to me. And then, with the coaches, I just I hope that they're gonna be invested in it, that they're gonna be motivating us the entire time, and that they're gonna just, want us to win. And it's in general, I just want us obviously, who doesn't wanna win, right? That's the whole
Yeah.
thing. But it's something you want to do. But then also individually, I feel like having the experience from last year, I want to continue to play, continue being, one of the starting middles on the team. But then also, keep what I did last year, and just keep being better, be that teammate that's
Exactly.
there for everyone, and just continue to be a better teammate. But then also when it comes to the individual playing, also still be ranked in the nation, still be ranked in the conference for blocks. That's something that I really focus on. So I still want to be able to do that. And, hopefully it'll be a 4-year thing where I'm ranked in the conference and ranked in the nation. And also this year, really want to be on, in the conference team. Last year wasn't able to, but hopefully, I'll be playing better on the important matches and just, ball out. Hopefully we'll see how it goes.
I was just gonna say, it seems like you really take a lot of pride in blacks and having quite a few blacks, which I'm sure is really, really fun because in my opinion, either black or a kill, in my opinion, are like the two most obviously exciting plays in volleyball, which I know there's other exciting plays as well. But when you get black, I'm sure that I just love the emotion that people show. Like I'm sure you mentioned you're a very emotional player. I'm sure you get black and end up leading to a point for you guys. I'm sure you guys probably go crazy.
Yeah, I even have a little celebration from last year, but I'll like get a block and I'll just go like this, like it just went straight down. And it's like just a little something that just brings so much energy.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's those little things that we have growing as a team that I want to keep. I want the
exactly.
future middle hitters that get a block to do the same thing. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
want like when people copy you, it means that you're doing something right. It doesn't mean
exactly.
that you're doing something wrong or that they're, jealous of you, but it's just those little things. And yeah, for sure, it's something important to me. I want to continue to be an important role player on this team, important peace, but I also wanna be a guy that is there for the team, that is willing to do anything to be better for the team and for the team to be better as well. And I'm just invested in this
Yeah.
program, and, I'm here, and I'm far away from my country. I'm far away from my family, so it's like I have to, be all in my second family, and I have to be giving my all, and that's what means the most to me right now, for sure.
Yeah, and I think you've demonstrated that you're very much invested, and I truly hope you obviously have a great season. Hopefully, you can get up there in blacks. Hopefully, you can be on a conference team as well. I know that's what you want to achieve. Hopefully, you guys can have a great year overall in conference, win conference, get to nationals. That would be really incredible. Before we wrap up here, I do want to ask one kind of more general question. What does the sport of volleyball mean to you? And do you see a future in the sport back in Brazil? Like, is it 4 years that Kelvin go back to Brazil, play volleyball? Is it staying in the US? Obviously, this is only your second year. I'm sure you probably haven't thought too far in advance of what your future exactly wants to look like because futures change, right? Like, you don't necessarily know exactly what's going to look like, but do you see yourself going back to Brazil eventually and playing volleyball?
That's a great question, yeah. I mean, the sport itself means the world to me, right? Because I've been playing it for so long, and it's something that means a lot to my parents, and because it means a lot to them, it means even more to me. But the sport itself, just, it's part of my identity, it's part of who I am, because I've been doing it for so long. It means a lot to me. It means the world to me. It's like part of my identity. If I don't have volleyball, then it's like part of me is gone, part of me is missing. So there's obviously that. But when it comes to the future, obviously that's something really hard. Like it was already hard for me growing up and in high school, like what I wanted to study or where I
Exactly.
wanted to go. So obviously that's something really hard to really identify. But for me, I want to finish those 4 years, graduate, hopefully here at Calvin, hopefully everything will, work out. But I hope to graduate, and then after that, I feel like it's just wherever God takes me or whatever opportunities I end up looking for. Could be
Exactly.
playing pro in another country or back in Brazil at a, starting at a level where I feel like I could, be playing well at an intense level, or maybe just coaching or just getting a job, and I just don't wanna let the sport go. I wanna keep playing until my knees and my body can't take it anymore. Like, I just wanna
Exactly.
just be because it just means so much to me. So there's obviously that, but I feel just wherever God takes me or wherever I decide to go, but there's a lot of options, yeah, when it comes to that, and it just depends on what the future has in hold, to be honest, yeah.
Yeah, you just want to obviously stay in the sport. You want to give back to a sport that's given you so much, and I can definitely see why. Like it's taught you so much. It's been something that been a part of your life for so long. It's been a part of your family life as well. Like you just want to kind of give back to the sport. You want to continue to do as long as you possibly can. And I truly do hope you're able to do that. I really truly hope that you obviously have a great year. One thing that I always say to anyone that ever joins is if you ever want to come back on, would absolutely love having you back on. It's been a ton of fun. I've learned a ton about obviously you, Kelvin, learned a ton about your culture, Brazil. I feel like we could talk for hours on end more about volleyball, more about you, and I really truly hope I am given the opportunity to have you back on. Absolutely no pressure whatsoever to do so, but the door's always open for you to come back on. Best of luck this year. Best of luck at Kelvin as well. Been an honor to have you on. Hopefully you had fun. That's my biggest thing is as long as you had fun, that truly is what matters to me. But yeah, best of luck this year. Best of luck at Kelvin. And thanks again for joining.
Thank you so much. It was awesome. Yeah. I hope to be back soon.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely have to do it again. Again, good luck this year. And yeah, that is a wrap to episode number 519. Thank you again to Gio for joining and tune in to the next episode.